Part 180. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu. Chapter 1791. Fang Fan narrowed his eyes and took a look, then the corners of his mouth twitched unnaturally. At a glance, there are tens of thousands of people. And all of them are existences above the Emperor's realm. Adult Aboriginal men can basically reach the 5-star Emperor realm or above. The ones who are a little bit stronger are those who have been cultivated above the 7-star Sovereign realm. If tens of thousands of people pile up together, it feels a little bit. Fang Fan took a deep breath, and while talking, he immediately complained to the side. Fang Fan's eyes focused on this, his thoughts gradually boiled, and various feelings flew in his mind. Now Fang Fan needs to force himself to calm down. Boy Fang Fan, otherwise, you should follow suit. Take a step back and open up the sea and the sky. The Queen's appeal is too strong, we are not opponents at all. If you ask me, Her Royal Highness is so beautiful, it's not a loss for you to be the prince. Bai Piao blinked, then said with a smile on the side. This guy just watched the fun and didn't think it was a big deal. While talking, the smile on his face became brighter and brighter. My lord, this should be regarded as the most cost-effective strategic strategy at present. Hao Yun groaned, and also said something secretly from the side. Master, we all know your ability in that area, you can do it. Even Galen made a joke from the sidelines. Fang Fan gritted his teeth, this group of guys, how worried are they? One by one is so excited. In order to save a wave of fighting, just push me out here? Am I still your leader? Am I still your master? Fang Fan gritted his teeth, and began to complain in his heart. Master Fang Fan, I don't think you should marry her. Tianhumeyer suddenly clenched her silver teeth and said righteously. Fang Fan exhaled, and finally had a normal one. I knew you earlier, even if you want to marry, you should marry me first. Tianhumeyer's face turned crimson while talking, and then she looked at Fang Fan with wide eyes, and said very sincerely. Fang Fan. What is this all about? He hasn't dealt with the matter here yet, another wave here? Don't you think the situation here is not chaotic enough? Fang Fan took a deep breath, inexplicably feeling his scalp tingling. Thinking of this in his heart, the corners of his mouth twitched more and more. Then what kind of queen, I have to tell you clearly in advance, don't make up my mind, I'm not that kind of casual man. Don't think that you want to be responsible for me after just kissing me, I don't need it. Furthermore, I will leave here in a short time, can you leave your kingdom and your group? Fang Fan shook his head, then said from the side. There are many substantive forms out there, and some expressions must be made in this regard. What Fang Fan said is also true. He has always felt that he is a very upright and responsible young man. I have to admit that this Queen Natasha is very beautiful, and there is an indescribable special noble temperament on her body, which makes people have a feeling of imagination. But so what? For Fang Fan, these are nothing. Is he the kind of person who loses himself for the sake of lust? Is he the kind of man who can hook up with any queen? The result is clearly negative. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu. Chapter 1792. Are you visitors from outside the sky looking for the fruit of the true God? If you are willing to be my prince, I will take you to find the fruit of the true God. Queen Natasha tilted her head and just looked at Fang Fan. Although the expression on her face was still cold, her hands naturally fell on Fang Fan's waist, and then hugged him tightly. According to the traditional customs of the Qiyu kingdom, once a girl is kissed by a boy for more than 1 minute, it means that they will be together for the rest of their lives. This is the rule. Even if she is Her Royal Highness, she cannot violate such rules. The fruit of the true God, the fruit of the God. Fang Fan's eyes widened, and then he took a breath, with an expression of disbelief on his face. If all this is true, don't be too surprised. Do you know where the fruit of God is? Fang Fan grabbed Queen Natasha's shoulders in turn, his eyes full of excitement. Of course I know. But the premise is that you have to become my prince before I can tell you everything. Otherwise, even if you kill me, I won't tell you. On the contrary, the people of the entire Chiyu kingdom will regard you as an enemy and kill you. Also, as the man who kissed me, once you fail to become the prince, your end is to be flogged to death. Besides that, I promise, I'll marry you. Fang Fan nodded sincerely. The situation is stronger than others, and it is bullshit to say that everything is 10,000, and the critical moment is still related to interests. Since they have already dedicated themselves to art, it is not impossible to dedicate themselves to the fruit of God this time. Fang Fan has always been a very casual person. You, really agreed? Are you sure you don't think about it anymore? I can tell you clearly that once you become my prince, your every move in the future will be strictly restricted. That is to say, you need to stay forever, and you can't go back in the future. At that time, you will need to sign the True God contract. Once you violate the relevant treaty, the great True God will tear you to pieces. As Queen Natasha spoke, the expression on her face became more and more clear, and all kinds of will and expressions were displayed on her face, which was full of realism. True God contract. Fang Fan smiled disdainfully. As long as it was related to contract agreements, he didn't care about anything, because it had no binding force on him. On the contrary, Fang Fan can even use these agreements and contracts in turn to bind other people. Fang Fan looked at Queen Natasha, then glanced at the elite queen's guards and the burly indigenous people. His eyes narrowed silently, and the smiles on the corners of his mouth grew more and more. I thought about it before. If I can let these natives join my legion, it will definitely improve the combat effectiveness of the legion to a great extent. I thought it was just a fantasy before, and the possibility of execution was almost zero, but now it seems, there is a complete chance to do this. Become her prince through the relationship of Queen Natasha, further control the power of the Chu kingdom, and then slowly plan to arrange all the natives of the Chu kingdom into the small world of Shushan Pavilion, and then take them out when they find an opportunity. As Fang Fan thought about it, the smiles on the corners of his mouth became more and more frequent, and his eyes gradually became pure and sincere. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1793. Dedicated to liberating the entire Chu kingdom. Fang Fan still felt that he was doing something extremely great. This great cause is still flourishing. Fang Fan's eyes flickered with the thought. Okay. Tomorrow, we will hold a wedding ceremony. You are already my prince-to-be. From today onwards, you must guard yourself like a jade for me. Once I find out that you are having an affair with another woman, I will choose to kill you and that woman together. Queen Natasha's face was still icy, but when she said these words, her expression was extraordinarily solemn, as if she had expressed herself clearly. Fang Fan agreed to all of them, falsely pretending to be a snake. Only in this way can it continue to develop and explode. This is the clearest rhythm at the moment. Fang Fan thought to himself. The smiles on his face grew more and more. Things have come to this point, and we can only develop slowly according to the current rhythm. As soon as he came to the ruins of the gods, he found the news of the fruit of the gods. Fang Fan nodded secretly, still looking quite satisfied. Fang Fan and others followed behind the main force, heading towards Chu kingdom. Queen Natasha seemed to have returned to her icy appearance. She said very little from the beginning to the end, and just walked in front. Fang Fan walked behind, looking around, paying attention to relevant movements at any time. Although Queen Natasha has already planned to marry him and make Fang Fan the only king of the Qiyu kingdom, it is always right to keep some things low-key. After all, a little carelessness will cause some accidents. In order to avoid these unexpected situations from happening, it is better to keep a low profile. Thinking so far, this is the most real feeling. How did you promise her? You heartless man. Scumbag. Tianhumayer's eye circles suddenly turned red, and then she glared at Fang Fan and said angrily. While speaking, she clasped her hands tightly in front of her body, and while talking, her gnashing of teeth was vividly displayed. This wave after wave of state seems extremely real. Fang Fan didn't react at first, but when Tianhumayer suddenly became sobbing, the corners of his mouth twitched unnaturally. What is it all about? How did it end up as if he was the culprit or something? What did he do wrong? He did nothing wrong. This matter has nothing to do with him from the beginning to the end. To put it bluntly, it's all bullshit. You say I'm a scumbag, who am I? Fang Fan's eyes widened, he wanted to seek justice for himself in this matter. I have dedicated myself to art and the liberation of the Qiyu kingdom, but I will become a scumbag in your mouth. Me. Tianhumayer's eyeballs turned around, and her face turned red again and again. She couldn't tell why when she was asked to speak. At this moment, she could only grit her silver teeth and stare at Fang Fan secretly. Such a state made Fang Fan inexplicably shown off. What is it all about? Anyway, you are a scumbag. You are a real scumbag. How long have you known that queen? Why, you want to kiss her. Now you want to marry her. Shameless. Despicable. Tianhumayer gritted her teeth and said, Fang Fan looked at her like this, and wanted to bite him. Tricks, these are all tricks, do you know? If we hadn't done that just now, I'm afraid those of us would have fallen into a bitter battle. After all, this is the territory of the natives of Shu Kingdom. Divine system of the strongest card supplier in the end times, Doomsday strongest card supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1794. Fang Fan narrowed his eyes secretly, and then sighed softly. In this matter, there must be a balance to be found. Although he is sure to break out from the siege of the natives of the Chu kingdom, it is inevitable that he will not encounter some attacks during the breakout process. This is something Fang Fan has always wanted to avoid. If he is not careful, the whole thing will collapse. Hanging on is the only choice. Especially at this moment, the opportunity to make a choice is basically dead. Haven't you encountered those practitioners from the light camp and the dark camp, and you have suffered heavy losses? There is really no need. In addition, if possible, they can also rely on the fighting power of the Qiyu kingdom to suppress the practitioners of the light camp and the dark camp in turn. Fang Fan narrowed his eyes secretly, and the smiles on the corners of his mouth became more and more frequent. If this plan can be carried out to the end, there are still many benefits. Thinking of this, Fang Fan secretly nodded, his eyes became more and more earnest. You mean, not really? Don't you really want to marry that Queen Natasha? Are you because of me? Is it because of me that you don't want to marry that Queen Natasha? Tianhumayer suddenly looked at Fang Fan earnestly, her face was blushing, and she spoke with a sense of shy excitement. Fang Fan. Are you thinking a little too much? In the melon seeds of the head, all the thoughts are about something. I don't understand at all. Fang Fan's complexion turned dark, and he felt his head buzzing. Narcissism isn't your fault, but if you insist on showing it off, it's your fault. Fang Fan really didn't want to hit people, but if this Tianhumayer didn't hit him, he really didn't know how much he would be. Is Fang Fan the man you can get if you want it? Am I so clueless? Fang Fan boy, I recently discovered that your boy's luck is really good. Tisk tisk tisk, how many times is this? Can you bear it? Bai Piao pouted and said sourly. Fang Fan raised his head generously, and looked towards Yuan Kong. Hey, in terms of charm, I've always been in control. Fang Fan let out a sigh, and then strode away. He could already feel Tianhu Meier's extremely resentful eyes. This is our royal capital. My prince, please enter with me. Queen Natasha focused her eyes on Fang Fan, then nodded and said. Fang Fan nodded secretly, the corners of his mouth raised silently, and then he glanced forward. That's it? This is, your capital. Standing in the cold wind, Fang Fan opened his mouth silently, with a strong sense of emotion. Looking at the past at a glance, isn't this just an earthen wall? Rows of earth walls and railings come together to form a city wall. If it wasn't for Queen Natasha's introduction just now, Fang Fan would even wonder if this might be the camp of some mountain king. Is this the configuration that a king should have? What's wrong? The capital of our Chu kingdom is already considered the most luxurious existence. Our capital has survived the baptism of wind and sand for thousands of years and has not fallen down. Our capital. Queen Natasha wanted to say something more, but was stopped by Fang Fan directly. He understood everything. Divine system of the strongest card supplier in the end times, Doomsday strongest card supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1795. These natives in the ruins of the gods obviously don't have much desire in these aspects. I didn't even think about building such a luxurious royal capital. I was a pragmatist. I felt that building such a high city wall and repairing those exquisite buildings was only for viewing, but it was meaningless and worthless for improving one's combat power. On the whole, this is also a one-sided problem. Your Highness, you are back. A group of soldiers wearing leather armor came out from the short earthen wall. The leader was a middle-aged man with sword eyebrows and starry eyes. He was wearing a rare purple gorgeous robe. I am used to the leather clothes of the natives of the Chu kingdom, but I am still not used to seeing this man more or less. While speaking, the middle-aged man in purple robe walked forward eagerly and saluted Queen Natasha respectfully. Although the posture was very respectful, there was a look of great ambition in the lowered eyes. Fang Fan took everything into his eyes and looked calm. My prince, this is the Duke Hague of our Chu kingdom. He was also your visitor from space, and you should have a more common language. Queen Natasha spoke, and then introduced to Fang Fan. While speaking, he naturally stretched out his hand to wrap around Fang Fan's waist. Fang Fan seemed a little awkward for no reason. This pose is too weird. According to the normal situation, it should be Fang Fan who directly hugged Queen Natasha's waist. But at this moment, Fang Fan didn't have time to worry about these things. His eyes were fixed on the middle-aged man in the purple robe, Duke Hague, with a look of surprise on his face. The aliens, obviously came from the big world, and they should have taken root here 10,000 years ago or even tens of thousands of years ago. I just don't know whether it is a practitioner of the dark camp or the light camp. Another point, how did he escape the obliteration of the rules of the ruins of the gods? According to the rules of the ruins of the gods, they generally can only stay in the ruins of the gods for a month to a year. As for the specific time, it varies. Once this time is over, if you don't leave the ruins of the gods, you will be completely obliterated by the rules of the ruins of the gods. The situation will only get more complicated then. Generally speaking, it is basically impossible for ordinary cultivators to get rid of the rules of the relics of the gods. I just don't know how this Duke Hague did it. Fang Fan pondered, and the curious expression on his face became more and more. Your Highness, what did you call him just now? Prince. The middle-aged man in the purple robe, Duke Hague, suddenly changed his complexion, and then his complexion gradually became gloomy. While talking, his brows were frowned unnaturally, and various thoughts were crazily churning in his mind. Yes, what's the problem? He is my prince. We will hold a wedding tomorrow. Duke Haig is welcome to come to the banquet tomorrow. Queen Natasha shrugged and said very calmly. Your Highness, how can you be so hasty? What if he has wolf ambitions? Then the national treasure will be lost. The middle-aged man in the purple robe, Duke Haig, clenched his hands silently, looking extremely annoyed and dissatisfied. He has planned for 30,000 years in Chu Kingdom. The purpose is to gain the favor of Her Highness the Queen, and finally win the first night of Her Highness the Queen. At that time, his cultivation will be greatly improved. In addition, there are national treasures. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1796. Is the national treasure mentioned by Duke Haig the fruit of the true God? I have already promised my prince that I will marry him with the fruit of the true God. Queen Natasha said solemnly. It was originally a relatively normal sentence, but Fang Fan felt his scalp tingling inexplicably when he heard it. Bride price? Hire me? Fang Fan inexplicably felt his scalp go numb. What is this talking about? Will I be hired? You can think of it. The corner of Fang Fan's mouth twitched, and then subconsciously wanted to complain. In all aspects, isn't this all bullshit? But Fang Fan didn't say much. He felt very touched by dedicating his life to liberate the entire Qiyu kingdom. But the complexion of the middle-aged man in the purple robe has completely changed. He stared at him viciously, his hands could not help but clenched tightly, layers of murderous intent condensed in his eyes. He has been planted here for tens of thousands of years, who knows what will happen in the end. He was cut off on the way. Now it's not about losing Her Royal Highness Queen Natasha. Even the fruits of the true gods that he worked so hard on will be completely wiped out. How could he endure this? The anxiety and anger in his heart gathered in one place, making his face gradually become uglier. Her Majesty, I think this person's mind is not clear. It's better to observe more, otherwise, it is very likely to cause danger to the entire kingdom. These days visitors come here with a purpose, and now you make him your prince. I don't think it's a good omen. The middle-aged man in the purple robe, Duke Haig, said, his face became more and more ugly. To put it bluntly, he just wanted to mess up this marriage and put an end to it. As for other things, it can be silent for a short time. The results of his painstaking efforts for so many years must not be reversed overnight. Thinking of this, the middle-aged man in the purple robe looked at Fang Fan with hatred in his eyes. Fang Fan frowned subconsciously, and silently clenched his hands. This Duke Haig has a problem. From his various performances, one can clearly feel a kind of repulsion and malice. Duke Haig. Please speak carefully. What the hell do you mean by that? I hope you can be clearer. This matter is finalized by me. I have made up my mind. Fang Fan is my prince, this cannot be changed. If you have any comments, keep it. Queen Natasha's complexion suddenly became indifferent, and while she was talking, her arms holding Fang Fan became tighter and tighter. Immediately, he raised his jaw under the eyes of everyone, and then, kissed him provocatively. Fang Fan inexplicably felt his scalp go numb. Lao Zi, was kissed by force? Is there any reason for this? Can this be tolerated? Fang Fan gritted his teeth, then took a deep breath, grabbed Queen Natasha's face directly, then aimed directly at the rosy lips, and kissed directly. When they kissed, they clicked their tongues instantly, as if they were sharing the process of enjoying. The corners of Fang Fan's mouth raised silently, only in this way, can he make a comeback. Otherwise, wouldn't it seem too shameless? Well. Woo woo woo. What are you doing? I'm about to suffocate. Queen Natasha clenched her hands into fists, and then began to beat Fang Fan's back. The feeling of suffocation gradually deepened, making Queen Natasha's face more rosy. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1797. Not bad, the taste is good. Fang Fan licked his lips and commented deeply. As he spoke, the smiles on the corners of his mouth grew more and more. He had to let Natasha figure out the position between the two. If it is not clear in these aspects, wouldn't it really collapse? After about 7 or 8 minutes, Fang Fan moved his mouth away with a look of regret. What are you doing? Queen Natasha stared at Fang Fan, then panted and said. While talking, he couldn't help but glared at Fang Fan viciously. The feeling of suffocation just now was too strong. From now on, be good. Don't force kiss me. This is my privilege. Understand. Fang Fan leaned forward, then embraced Queen Natasha with both hands, and approached her to the corner of the city wall. At this moment, only the sound of breathing between each other can be heard in our ears. All kinds of breathing sounds are very clear and real. Queen Natasha gritted her teeth, and the blushing expression on her face became more and more intense. For some reason, in front of this man in front of her, he always had a cowardly feeling. It's like the kind who dare not fight back after being bullied. You humble existence, dare to hurt Her Majesty the Queen. Come on. Capture him. Capture him. Control him. A series of shouts came, and the expression of Duke Haig of the Chu Kingdom suddenly became extremely gloomy. All along, he has regarded Queen Natasha as his confinement. I didn't expect to be kissed by someone else's man in public like this. The middle-aged man in the purple robe was thinking in his heart, his eyes were flickering with murderous intent, and at this moment he wished he could just jump over and launch an attack. The condensed killing intent made his face even more ugly. All the subjects of the surrounding Chu Kingdom looked at each other, gradually showing confusion and hesitation in their eyes. What should they say and do at this time? Or is everything being completely ended? Seeing their sacred and inviolable queen being so insulted, as a subject, it is completely normal to feel all kinds of anger and anxiety in my heart. In addition, the middle-aged man in the purple robe, Duke Haig, raised his arms. Everyone gathered together, and their faces became calm for a while. Let go of Her Majesty the Queen. Damn outsider. Her Majesty the Queen is inviolable. Bastard. Damned shameless. Our Chu Kingdom cannot be humiliated. Led by the middle-aged man in the purple robe, Duke Haig, these native soldiers from the Chu Kingdom gathered here, and while talking, they rushed over excitedly. Her Royal Highness has always been sacred and inviolable in their eyes. Now that it has fallen to this point, it is common sense to feel a little angry. Seeing that tens of thousands of natives of the Chu Kingdom surrounded him, Bai Piao and the others were completely stunned. How did the situation develop into this? The kind that will collapse in minutes. This also plays with a hammer. Boy Fang Fan, now is not the time to be a show, you take it easy. No matter how tempting your highness is, you can do whatever you want after you get married, but now, the timing is not right. I really can't bear it. Bai Piao touched the cold war on his forehead, then took a deep breath and said, looking at the past, among the native soldiers of the Chu Kingdom, there are thousands of them who can display low-level quasi-jihad power. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1798. In a comprehensive comparison, he was completely abused. Completely abused without integrity. The scene was once extremely horrifying. Bai Piao wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, panicking too much. Fairy. It really is a fairy. Tianhumeyer glanced in the direction of Fang Fan and Queen Natasha, then said through gritted teeth. While talking, her fists were clenched unnaturally, jealousy made her look unrecognizable. As for Fang Fan, he was still completely immersed in that graceful taste at the moment. You let me go. You're crushing me. Queen Natasha's voice became softer and her body gradually became hotter and hotter, which did not match the previous image of the iceberg queen. Fang Fan has already controlled her lifeline. Lessons learned while enjoying, the feeling is deep. Do you realize your mistake? Fang Fan looked down at Natasha with a condescending gaze. I know I was wrong, I won't, I really won't. Natasha lowered her head and pursed her lips. Is it? Good, very good. Then, let you go. Good. Fang Fan lifted Queen Natasha's chin, a wicked smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and then turned his arms around Queen Natasha's delicate waist, and raised his head to look at the crowd. You all, stop. Queen Natasha once again showed her icy face, and gradually showed her indifference while talking. His Royal Highness, he insulted you just now, which is disrespectful. We must not let this bastard go. We must kill this bastard. It has already become like this before we stepped into the threshold of our Chiyu kingdom. If we completely step into it in the future, we don't know what it will evolve into. The rules are established at this time. Her Royal Highness, Shu Kingdom's million-year-old foundation is here, do you just dismiss it like this? Your Highness, even if you agree, have you considered the thoughts of millions of soldiers and civilians in the Chu Kingdom? The middle-aged man in the purple robe, Duke Haig, was talking and his face became ugly for a while. At this moment, he clenched his fists, and his thoughts gradually vacated. He absolutely does not allow his achievements of so many years to be completely destroyed by someone. No way. After the middle-aged man in the purple robe finished speaking, the surrounding Chu Kingdom natives fell into a burst of eager discussion. Generally speaking, Fang Fan should be severely punished. The prince bullying Her Majesty the Queen in public, according to the ancestral precepts of our Chiyu Kingdom, is going to be soaked in a pig cage. Exactly. I think Duke Haig is right. The rules must be established at the beginning, otherwise how will we deal with them in the future? They will become lazy in the future, and it will be even more difficult to deal with. On this point, I support Duke Haig. We will absolutely not allow Her Royal Highness to be bullied in the slightest. I propose to immerse this new prince in a pigsty as an example to others. The noise is endless. Dip the pig cage. Fang Fan opened his mouth, and was completely stunned. Are you sure this is no joke? Do you want to soak the pig cage every now and then? Why don't you go to heaven? Why not go shoulder to shoulder with the sun? Give this queen peace. Queen Natasha glanced around, full of power. After she finished speaking, the surrounding atmosphere instantly dropped to zero, and then everyone gathered together, silent. They will obey Her Majesty's orders to the death. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1799. Fang Fan is now my prince. Any one of you will respect him as much as I do. If you want to kill Prince Fang Fan, kill me first. As Queen Natasha spoke, sharp rays of light flickered in her eyes. Having said all of this, it is basically a very clear expression of what I mean. That is to insist on Fang Fan's side, even at the expense of using her authority as the queen of the Chiyu Kingdom. This sentence has come to this point, even a fool can understand what Queen Natasha is trying to say. These subjects of the Chu Kingdom fell silent for a moment. In their minds, there is no doubt that Her Highness the Queen must be the biggest. Now that Her Highness has spoken, how can they really go against it? At this point in the idea, the meanings of each other are displayed separately. For the ordinary subjects of the Chiyu kingdom, they only act on the orders of Her Majesty the Queen. As for other things, they don't pay attention to them, let alone care. But the face of the middle-aged man in purple robe, Duke Haig, suddenly became extremely ugly. His eyes were filled with endless murderous intent and anger. He didn't expect Her Royal Highness to pay such attention to this bastard. This is true love? Or something else? His plan of tens of thousands of years was really ruined. The killing intent hidden in the corner of Duke Haig's mouth was gradually revealed, his hands were folded into fists, and his willpower exploded completely. The vigorous killing intent in his heart made his face become extremely ugly one after another. Duke Haig, do you have anything else to say? Queen Natasha stared directly at Duke Haig, and the sarcasm at the corner of her mouth was extraordinarily real. Duke Haig gritted his teeth and wanted to say something, but the words stopped suddenly when he reached his mouth. Now this Queen Natasha doesn't know what kind of ecstasy soup has been poured into this bastard, she has been obsessed with this bastard. If I openly oppose it now, once Queen Natasha confronts me, I won't be able to take advantage of it in a short time. Although I have won over a group of cronies in the Chiyu kingdom over the years, it is not enough, very not enough. Queen Natasha is the hope and symbol of the entire Chiyu kingdom. I openly oppose Queen Natasha, my supporters may directly rebel. Duke Haig narrowed his eyes secretly, and endless thoughts were revealed in his sinister eyes. He was able to endure tens of thousands of years in the Chu kingdom, and finally became famous, becoming the only non-indigenous duke in the Chu kingdom. Duke Haig is obviously not that kind of fool. How things should develop and change, he still has a sense of propriety in his heart. The breakthrough is on Fang Fan. As long as he is beheaded, Queen Natasha will naturally be obsessed with a dead person, then Queen Natasha will still be mine. Beyond that, the fruit of God conceived in the Chiyu kingdom, is also mine, all of it is mine. Duke Haig thought this in his heart, and then he took a deep breath, clenched his hands, and various thoughts churned in his mind, making the smiles on the corners of his mouth more and more frequent. It was this feeling, real and exciting to him. Everything is under control. Divine system of the strongest card supplier in the end times, Doomsday strongest card supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1800. Since it is something Her Royal Highness decides, I will naturally support it with all my strength. A smile appeared on the corner of Duke Haig's mouth, and he nodded secretly as he spoke, expressing his emotions very truthfully. But Duke Haig's voice suddenly changed, and his eyes focused directly on Fang Fan, who was at the side. Prince Fang Fan may have to show some convincing strength, so that we can all be convinced. Otherwise, the warriors of my Chiyu kingdom would not be reconciled to Her Royal Highness recruiting a cowardly and incompetent prince. Duke Haig snorted coldly, and as he spoke, his eyes flickered to the end. As he spoke, the originally silent subjects of the Chu kingdom suddenly became agitated again. Contest! 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 I don't accept this prince. I'll say it if I can beat him. Exactly. Her Royal Highness must not marry a coward. Fight! Fight to the end. My Chu kingdom builds a country with martial arts. Fight to the end. A cowardly existence is not qualified to be our prince. The crowd was furious, and the scene was once very sensational. Queen Natasha frowned, intending to suppress the wave, but at this moment, many things have changed. The subjects of the Chiyu kingdom threatened to kill Fang Fan before, and she could stop them in the name of her queen. After all, Fang Fan is her prince, and she has an obligation to protect her prince's safety. But now when it comes to challenges, it's harder to say no to. After all, in the Chu kingdom, duel scenes are still very common, and their core philosophy is to fight. Fight again. Fang, Fang Fan. Queen Natasha turned her head to look at Fang Fan, looking a little hesitant. Don't worry, these shrimp soldiers and crabs don't pay attention to me. Fang Fan shrugged and smiled lightly. My strength, haven't you already felt it? Fang Fan leaned close to Queen Natasha's ear and said with a pun. Queen Natasha's eyes widened immediately, and then she glared at Fang Fan angrily, and subconsciously punched Fang Fan's chest with her pink fist. Of course, it was the kind of beating. A wicked smile appeared on the corner of Fang Fan's mouth. For some reason, she liked to tease Queen Natasha more and more. I always feel that there is a unique fun in it. You will feel a sense of pleasure from the bottom of your heart. Damn it! This bastard is insulting our queen again. Ah, I want to duel. I want to duel with him. I can't stand it. Bastard. How can this guy do this? Hiss, he must be killed. He said just now that we are all a group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. Damn it. It's too crazy. No matter what, you have to teach him a lesson. You must let him deeply feel the lesson. It's just, I think it's the same, otherwise, where is my heart? Huh, that's the reason, damn it, I almost spit out a mouthful of old blood. Huh, hoo, don't fight me for a while. I'm going to kill him. From the first time I saw this guy, I was unhappy, and I have been unhappy for a long time. Maybe this is the feeling of jealousy, envy, and hatred. My queen, has never said a word to me. Now I am being bullied by that bastard.